Hey, we're back at it again, guys. Good morning to everybody out there. Hopefully last night treated you kindly. I know that there was a lot of picks that we talked about in yesterday's video that it just didn't quite work out. It didn't quite work out. Leave the plays that failed you last night in the chat for me. I want to see who you guys took. Some of those plays that may not have worked out like we thought they would. So I know there were some disappointments out there last night, but today's a new day. Yesterday was a big 13-game slate. The day before that was a 3-game slate. We're back at it with another small 3-game slate. Just 3 NBA games to talk about today. So we'll go over the points, the rebounds, the assists, and 3-point makes. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed. Yesterday, we passed over 2,300 subscribers. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your continued support. Not only that, but I think we set a new record for the amount of likes on a single video. You guys blew it away yesterday. I think I set the line at 99.5. Well, we went way over that. I might have to start setting these lines a little bit higher if you guys keep hitting 99.5 consistently. So let's go for it again. I'm going to set it at 99.5. We'll try to get at least 100 likes on this video. You guys have been absolutely crushing it. I think there's only one day, one stream where we did not go over that goal. So make sure you're subscribed, notifications are turned on, smash the like button if you haven't yet. Now, otherwise, if you don't play on PrizePicks, go ahead and sign up now. You can go to PrizePicks.com, use promo code Curry. You'll get a dollar for dollar price match all the way up to $100. So if you put in $100, they're matching it, giving you $200 to get started, making your first entry totally risk-free, nothing to lose. You're playing on house money. You're playing on PrizePicks money. So go ahead. Check out PrizePicks.com, link down in the description below. And then our sponsor, obviously, here is Props.cash. We're taking a look at Props.cash, using their tools day in, day out to help us make better decisions when it comes to taking the overs and unders on our favorite player props. So we're going to dig back into Props.cash again today and see what's popping. So good morning to everybody who's joining the chat. Thank you so much. I see we got some notification gang up in the building. Kevin, what's happening? Tyrone, Ozzy, Anthony's up in here. Said, good morning. Good to see you back again, Said. I know it's been a couple days. I'm glad you're able to catch this thing live today. Anthony, what's happening? Gambit Mobile, what's going on? Darren or Duran, whatever you go by. I'm not sure, but good to see you. Los, what's happening? Jared's up in here this morning. Good to see you, Jared. Yeah, Remy's back. Remy's he's a regular around these parts. And Markel's up in the building. Good morning to you, Markel. Laker Gang just joined the chat as well. So we got a lot of people in here. We'll give it a couple minutes, let them get in here while we wait on more people to join the live stream. Let's go ahead and start breaking down today's short slate. So we're on numberfire.com. We've got game information and starting lineup news here. The first game tips off at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Toronto Raptors at Philadelphia 76ers. And guys, I want you to pay attention, close, careful attention to all the injury news swirling around this game. We've got Watanabe, Birch, and Siakam for the Toronto Raptors. The biggest one obviously would be Pascal Siakam. Ever since he's re-entered the lineup, it's been kind of impacting one guy in particular. I think we'll talk about him in just a little bit. But on the Philadelphia 76ers side, Tobias Harris is a game-time decision, as is Seth Curry. Of course, Ben Simmons continues to sit out. Joel Embiid dealing with COVID. He is also out, and we got a couple of other guys not so impactful. Now, skipping ahead to the next game, which tips off at 9 p.m. tonight, we've got the Indiana Pacers at the Utah Jazz. For Indiana, you got to take a look at the injury news because there's some major ones here. Karis LeVert being the biggest question mark. He's the only one we're not so sure if he's going to be in the lineup or not. Obviously, if he's in, that will impact guys like Malcolm Brogdon, maybe a little bit of Domantas Sabonis or Miles Turner. It could be impactful to those guys. So he's the big one to look out for. Nothing really noteworthy over on the Utah side. And then finally, the last game, the late night hammer, as we like to call it. 10:30 p.m. tip-off time here on the East Coast. Miami Heat, Los Angeles Clippers. For the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler is on today's injury report, guys. You got to pay attention. Got to make sure you have a plan in place. If Jimmy Butler's out, what are you going to do? Are you going to pivot over to Tyler Herro? I think he would get a bump up. Bam Adebayo, maybe he gets a little bit of a bump up. Or maybe you go with one of the other role players like Duncan Robinson. Definitely have a plan in place because if Jimmy Butler's out, that could be major news. And then for the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard continues to sit. We've got Morris and Ibaka also out. So that's pretty much it. Just 3 games. not a whole lot to talk about here in terms of, games and injuries and stuff like that. So we should be able to stay right on top of today's breaking injury news. So as we get closer to lock, tip off, make sure you're paying attention to that news. We're up to 43 viewers. I appreciate all of you for joining. Alan's back in the house. What's up, Alan? You're here almost every day, and I'm glad to see you back. John's in here. Esper's up in the building. Alexis, what's happening to you? So yeah, looks like we're trying to bounce back here. I think that's kind of the theme of today's video. Let's bounce back. All right? Am I right? I didn't have a great day. I did hit 1 2-pick entry on some fantasy points. I took Lonzo Ball over fantasy points, and I paired him with Thaddeus Young, who has low-key been a killer off the bench for the San Antonio Spurs. So those were the 2 plays that ended up working out for me. Miguel, let's make some money. I agree with you, man. We got to get some of that money back that we lost last night if you did lose. Some of you might have won. Roger's up in here. What's happening, Roger Blaze? Hopefully he's bringing them fire picks today into the chat. So let's go ahead and dig into it. You kind of get the gist of what's happening on today's slate. Not a ton to talk about. We've got daily basketball projections provided by Numberfire. You can get these for free. All you have to have is a Gmail account. Go to numberfire.com. They got fantasy points projections if you play on PrizePicks. Plus, they got all kind of different single stat projections on there. Anything from points to rebounds to assists, steals, and blocks. They got you covered with just about everything you need, and it costs you nothing, which is great. We like free stuff. So let's start digging into props.cash, taking a look at some of the trends, the top trends, the guys that have the highest hit rate. We're looking at some of the other trends, guys with low hit rates, and we'll talk about it a little bit here. So the guy that's on top of the points trends with a high hit rate, leading all of the point scorers, is Ivica Zubac. He's at 9.5 points today. I hope I'm not butchering this poor guy's name. 70% hit rate, though, at 9.5 points. We talked about him on, not yesterday, but I believe the day before as a potential overplay. And I do believe that he ended up hitting and going over 9.5 points. So that could be one that maybe we go back to. I think in that stream, we also talked about Nicholas Batum, who back then was at 9.5 points. But as you can see, they have bumped him up now to 10.5 points. But I can tell you this, he's been covering both 9.5 and 10.5 in his last 5 games with pretty good regularity. We've also got Donovan Mitchell at 26.5 points with a 60% hit rate. Not too shabby. I do wish that was closer to 70 or more percent, but we'll take 60% on a short slate. Scotty Barnes, another guy worth talking about, 14.5 points, 60% hit rate. So we'll kind of draw the line there and not talk about anybody that's below that. But let's start with one that's kind of interesting to me, and that's Nick Batum at 10.5 points. As I mentioned, we talked about him a couple days ago. He was at 9.5 points, and I think I suggested we take the over on Nick Batum, and boy, did he come through clutch against his former team, the Portland Trail Blazers, dropping 22 big points. It's the most points he scored in the last 5 games. So let's see if Batum could be one of those guys that gets it done for us at 10.5 points. He got it done at 9.5 points. According to the game logs here, he's also very capable of going over 10.5 points. So we're going to dig into it. So we got props.cash pulled up here. We've got the points already loaded up. Now, if you want, you can filter out by game. Miami Heat, Los Angeles Clippers. So let's do that. We'll click on Nick Batum's name, showing you guys kind of how to use these tools here. And the first thing that pops up here is his last 10, the last 10 game log. So this will give us a snapshot of what he's been up to over the course of his last 10 games. Now, currently at 10.5 points, he has gone over this number in 6 out of 9 games. That represents a 67% hit rate. In the last 10 games, he's averaging 12.1 points per game, putting him well over 10.5. But in the last 5, things get so much sweeter because that number starts to trend way up. He's close to 17 points per game in his last 5 games, guys. So he's been on fire here, putting up points of 14, 20, 12, 16, and the big 22 that we already talked about. So Nick Batum, definitely a guy who can get it done at 10.5. We know that we like the 9.5, 10.5. Maybe it's a little tougher, but he's showing that he can get it done. Let's look at this matchup against the Heat, though. They rank it 6th overall in points allowed. So they are a top 10 defense in terms of limiting points. But if Jimmy Butler sits out, I think things get a little bit easier for a guy like Nick Batum, maybe Paul George in the same boat. So field goal percentage, they do rank top 3 in field goal percentage, 26th in 3-pointers allowed. So the amount of threes that they give up per game, they rank 26th. And then 3-point percentage allowed, they rank 11th. So they're actually pretty good in terms of limiting a high 3-point field goal percentage, top 11 team. Free throws allowed, though, 24th. And against small forwards, they rank 2nd. So again, Jimmy Butler's out. Maybe that improves the situation here for the likes of Nick Batum, Paul George, and company. Now, tonight, we've got about 211.5 implied points. Not a super sky-high total between these two teams, but also, not down there at 200 points either. We got a 4-point spread currently with the Los Angeles Clippers as 4-point home favorites. Now, if we look at the minutes for Nick Batum over his last 5 games, he's averaging about 29.5 minutes, seeing a pretty steady flow of minutes here in his last 5. So you'd love to see that. That's an uptick versus where he's been at for the course of the full season and in his last 10 games. So he's starting to see more minutes, more court time, which is good news for us if we're looking to take any overs on him. Now, his field goal attempts also on the rise. 8.3 for the season, 7.5 in his last 10, but overall in his last 5, 9.4 field goal attempts. So attempting about 2 more shots when you compare the last 10 games to the last 5 games. So that kind of gives you an idea. Everything is ticking upwards. His scoring, his minutes, his field goal attempts. So this could be a good spot to go back to Nick Batum on these points. Also worth noting, 5.6 3-pointers attempted in his last 10. That number is also up to 7.4, guys. 7.4. Again, everything trending upward here for Nicholas Batum. So you kind of get the idea. Could be a tough matchup, but with Jimmy Butler potentially resting, maybe we go back to Nick Batum. Let's pull up a projection for you here on NumberFire. They've got him at 10.1 points. So slightly over 10 points. We need him to have at least 11 tonight. So this puts him pretty close, but not a lock. Nothing ever is a lock, though, really, is it? When you think you have everything nailed down and it looks like you're on a sure pick, sometimes it just doesn't work out for you. But Nick Batum, I would probably have to lean toward the over with or without Jimmy Butler. So what's going on, LCS? What did you miss? You didn't miss a whole lot just yet. Nick Batum was our first pick that we talked about. Esper's up in the building. Hello, Esper. Ken Mann is up in the building. Mr. Mittens, good morning to you. Thank you guys for joining the chat this morning. So yeah, Nick Batum could be a good way to go. Now I want to talk about another one. Now this player may not be on the props.cash trend list. Let's see if he is or isn't. Okay, he kind of is. He's up at the top trends list as far as a high hit rate guy, but he's not really a high hit rate guy at 18.5 points, 50%. He's more of a coin flip guy. Now, right now, he's a minus 114 to go over. I'm talking about OG Anunoby. Now, the reason I want to talk about him is due to the fact that Scotty Barnes is now back in the lineup. Pascal Siakam potentially will play tonight. And I think that could and has been impacting OG Anunoby and his scoring output. Let's go ahead and look into it here. So this might be a situation where if Pascal Siakam is ruled in, we might want to consider going under. Now in the last 2 games for OG Anunoby, 16 points and 14 points. He still sits at 18.5 points. So they have not moved his line down in the last couple of days, despite the fact that Barnes is back in and Siakam is back in for Toronto. So this is all really hinging on, will Pascal Siakam play or will he not tonight? If he does play, I think I'm leaning toward the under on this particular prop because I do believe if things continue the way that they've been going for OG Anunoby and this Raptor squad, this number will end up being about 17.5, maybe going even as low as 16.5 in the coming days. So we've got to kind of look at the market here on some of these player props and get a feel like maybe they're not correcting this just yet. Maybe they're lagging. They're behind, let's just say, on moving this number down. But let's look into it a little bit closer here. OG Anunoby could be an underplay if Pascal Siakam is in. Let's dig into it. He's taken on the Philadelphia 76ers at Philly tonight. In his last 10 games, he's done a pretty good job of going over 18.5 points. He's got a hit rate of 60%. Which is 6 out of 10. But if we look at the numbers here, the average is also looking pretty healthy here. 19.7 points per game, 21.1 in his last 10, and 22 points per game in his last 5. So you're probably like, well, why would we want to go under here? Well, again, it's all going to depend on Pascal Siakam. in that news. Is he going to be in or out? And I will say, if you look at his last 5 games, 36 points against the Knicks, definitely boosting the overall scoring average in his last 5 to this 22 number that you see here. So it's a bit inflated. He's got 21 and 23, but again, in those last 2 games where Barnes and Siakam have been in 16 points and 14 points, then things are kind of starting to slow down here for OG Anunoby. Let's go take a look here at the Philadelphia 76ers and their defense. Now, we got to mention, obviously, Joel Embiid is going to be out. Tobias Harris potentially out as well. So maybe the defensive rankings not so accurate with those guys out of the lineup. So keep that in mind. But they rank 9th in points allowed, 9th in field goal percentage allowed, 7th in the amount of threes allowed, 15th middle of the pack in terms of 3-point field goal percentage, and 14th in free throws allowed. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the areas where the Philadelphia 76ers defense shines, but where they don't shine so bright is against opposing small forwards. So I don't know what you want to classify OG Anunoby as. Obviously, you got him, Barnes, and Siakam. They're very much overlapping in terms of their role for the Toronto Raptors. They are all kind of wing guys, shooting guard, small forward. So yeah, the 76ers good against opposing small forwards, but who really benefits from that? Is it Anunoby? Is it Barnes? Is it Siakam? We have to wait and see. The total on tonight's game, 210.5 points, with the home team, the Philadelphia 76ers, somehow still 3-point favorites despite all of the potential injuries. So maybe that's an indication that Tobias Harris will play tonight. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. 38.6 minutes per game in his last 5, and then we scroll on down here. Look at his field goal attempts. They're starting to trend down, guys. This is why I like the under on OG Anunoby. He's not the most efficient player out there. More of a volume guy, if you ask me. 27, 20, 21, 16, and 14. So things are starting to dip in terms of the amount of field goals he's attempting per game. 19.6, though, in his last 5. Again, a lot of this 19.6 being bolstered by the 27 shots he took against the New York Knicks. Going down here, looking at his 3-point attempts, those are starting to dip as well. You see his last 10 games, 7.6. Now he's down to 6.8 in his last 5. And he doesn't get to the free throw line a whole lot, but that's kind of been the case across the NBA. Less foul calls being called overall. Let's get you a projection, though, for OG Anunoby and look at these points today. So I've got him at 17 points, which puts him under 18.5 by 1.5 points. So again, I think the lean here should probably be under on OG Anunoby, but it's all going to depend on Pascal Siakam. I'm going to keep hammering that nail. So there you go. There's a couple of points props to be on the lookout for. Let's go down here and see which ones have a lower hit rate. Eric Bledsoe at 9.5 points, guys. He was going to go over going under the other night at 9.5 points. Unfortunately, in the last minute against Portland, he ended up getting a garbage time layup. He checked back in with a couple minutes to go, and then less than a minute to go in the game, he ended up getting a layup that put him over his point prop. So that was just a bad break, bad beat. Fred VanVleet, 18.5 points, just a 41.7% hit rate, meaning he hasn't covered this 18.5 point prop a whole lot in his last 5 games. So let's talk about Fred VanVleet, and then we'll move on to the next category here. Maybe this is another guy that's also impacted by the return of Pascal Siakam. If we look at the last 5 games here, he's gone over in just 3 out of 5. Not a terrible hit rate, 60%. But overall, if we look at the larger sample size, things get a little bit worse here for Fred VanVleet. So let's go ahead and do that now, thanks to props.cash. Now, in his last 10 games, he's just gone 5 for 10, 50% in covering this point prop. He's got a couple of games that really stand out where he really shined. 33 against Washington, 21 against Brooklyn, 26 against Indy. So he's got some upside, we'll say, in terms of scoring the basketball. Currently, he sits at a -112 to go over 18.5 points. If we look at the averages, 18.7 points per game this season. That number ticks up to 20.1 points per game in his last 10, and it gets even sweeter at 21 points per game in his last 5. But again, a lot of that being boosted by this 33-point performance against the Wizards. So we scroll down. We've already talked about the Philadelphia defense. We know overall pretty tough. What we didn't talk about is how they do against opposing point guards. They rank 18th overall against opposing point guards. So not a plus matchup, not really a minus matchup or a difficult matchup whatsoever either. And on his last 5, he's averaging about 38 to 39 minutes per game, seeing plenty of run for Toronto. And then in the last 5, you can look at his field goal attempts, averaging about 17 field goal attempts per game. Gives you an idea how many shots he's taking. Field goal percentages, kind of all over the place. Usually, though, right around the low 40s for the most part. And then his 3-point attempts per game, he's averaging right around 8 threes per game. So that kind of gives you the read here on Fred VanVleet. This is going to be another one, guys, where we got to wait and see what's going to happen here with Pascal Siakam. But let's go ahead and get you a projection on Fred VanVleet. They got him going for 18.6 points. So I probably wouldn't touch this one based on the projections. I would feel more comfortable maybe going under on OG Anunoby versus this Fred VanVleet point prop, even though Fred VanVleet has the lower hit rate. So there you go. There's a couple of points props. Thank you to everybody. We're up to 64 viewers. If you haven't smashed the like button, go ahead and do that now. We're going to try and keep this streak of 100 or more likes going. I think we've hit this number in quite a few games. Here I am talking about games. In the last few streams, I should say, we've only missed it one time. So let's try and keep it going, guys. Good morning to everybody. Matthew's up in the building. He hit a plus 1,000 parlay last night because of me. Oh my goodness. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome for the live streams. I like to try and think that I'm helping more than I'm hurting, but we can only do so much here, right? We can't predict the future. We can only try to make educated and informed decisions. So let's try and do that now with the rebound props. Let's go look at the rebound props and see what we've got up on props.cash. So we'll switch things up, go from points to rebounds, and look at some of the high hit rate guys. Starting things off with Rudy Gobert at 13.5 boards. Guys, he's sporting almost an 82% hit rate. Minus 128 also to go over 13.5. So I could see this one being one that could potentially end up getting bumped up by the fine folks over on the PrizePicks lines making team. He's at 13.5 at the moment, though. So let's see if we can go and take advantage of this particular prop. We'll start switching things around here on props.cash. We'll go click Rudy Gobert. All right, now in his last 10 games, 8 out of 10, 80% hit rate, 15.9 rebounds per game over the course of the season, 15.4 over his last 10, and 14.4 over his last 5. So things are starting to dip a little bit for Rudy Gobert. He was up right around 16 boards over the whole scope of the season. Then things start to drop down to 15.4, down to 14.4 in his last 5. So some of what's hurting him in that last 5 average is this 8 rebound performance here against the Miami Heat. So we'll forgive him for that one. But if you look at the other games, they're sandwiched in between a 20 and a 15 and another 15 and a 14 rebound performance. So that little 8 there, kind of the stinky little hot dog in the big bun there. So we move it on down, and we're going to take a look at this Indiana defense. The only news that's really impactful is Karis LeVert. We should see both Turner and Sabonis in the lineup for Indiana tonight. But we look at this Indiana defense, 4th in terms of rebounds allowed. So they are stingy. They are a tough team on the glass. They rank 13th in offensive rebounds allowed and 4th in defensive rebounds allowed and 17th overall at defending the center position. 215.5 is the implied total. Now, this has blowout risk written all over it. Why is that? Because the Utah Jazz are a minus 10 favorite at home. So anytime I see double-digit spreads, I kind of get a little scared at taking overs on guys like Rudy Gobert and some of these stars, because if this game's a blowout by the 4th quarter, we know that blowouts can be the Achilles heel to taking overs on any of our entries. So got to be careful with this particular player prop. If somehow Indiana can keep it close, maybe we see Rudy Gobert get a full run of minutes, 36 minutes or so. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen based on the 10-point spread from this game. Now, looking at his minutes, 30.5 in his last 5. He's starting to kind of tick down ever so slightly versus his last 10, where he was at 30.9. And we go down here, look at the offensive and defensive rebound metrics. The total rebounds are the number you see at the top of these red bar graphs. The offensive rebounds are highlighted green for you, give you an idea how many offensive rebounds he's been getting in the last 10 games. So let's get you a projection on this prop for me. This one is really going to hinge on, do we think this game stays close enough for Rudy Gobert to get some run in the fourth quarter to where he can get more court time and more opportunities to pull in more rebounds? I don't know. But I can tell you this, Number Fire's got him at 14.5 boards, so they do like him to go over 13.5. This is a tough matchup, and this is a game that looks like it could get out of hand. So just be careful with this particular player prop. I know it's got a high hit rate. It looks pretty good, but it could be a trap. It could be a trap. Let's go down and take a look at another high hit rate guy. And let's talk about Paul George at 7.5 rebounds, guys. He's sporting an 80% hit rate, currently a -132 to go over his rebound prop of 7.5. So this has been one that's been hitting. It's been hitting real good. 80% hit rate in his last 5 games, going 4 out of 5. So let's dig into Paul George's rebounds and see if we can help land on a good over or good under on this particular play tonight. So Paul George, we've got the last 10 games dialed up here for you. 8.3 rebounds per game in the last 10. 8.8 rebounds per game in his last 5. So he's seeing an uptick, trending upwards in terms of his rebound per game average. That's something that we like to see, especially if we're looking to take the overs. Now, a couple of these games we got to really throw out here, especially this one against Portland. I can't believe that Paul George was in there playing basketball and could not find one rebound. But it happened, guys. It's true. It's damn true, in the words of Kurt Angle. 11, 10, 10, 8, 9, 11, 9, and 9. So he's just been going well over 7.5 in most of these games. So I'm loving what I'm seeing so far out of Paul George. If we go down here, though, look at this matchup. Miami is a tough team. All I see is red. All I see is red. They're second in rebounds allowed, 6th in offensive rebounds allowed, 3rd in defensive rebounds allowed, and they rank 2nd against opposing small forwards. So maybe if Jimmy Butler's out, like he's a game time decision right now, maybe if he sits out, things get easier, like I mentioned earlier, for guys like Nick Batum, Paul George. But so far, this is a minus rebound situation for Paul George tonight. Going down here, looking at his minutes, about 37 minutes per game. Not really worried about Paul George getting enough minutes. He gets plenty of minutes. And then we can get a look at how many rebounds he's been getting and the offensive rebounds. Not much of an offensive rebounder. Most of his rebounds come on the defensive end. But again, Miami ranks 3rd in defensive rebounds allowed at 32.9. Let's call it 33 rebounds per game. So let's get your projection on Paul George. Let's see if he can go over or under based on the Number Fire projections. They got him at 6.8 boards tonight, guys. If we round that up, if we're feeling generous and we want to round it up, call it 7 rebounds. Well, 7 rebounds is less than 7.5 boards. So they're thinking maybe we should be leaning toward the under on this particular player prop. What do you guys think, though? Paul George, high hit rate in a tough matchup, and the projections don't seem to like the over on his rebounds tonight. Might be a fade if you don't feel good about it. Let's go down and look at the low hit rate guys for rebounds. And the lowest of the low is Michael Conley Jr. at 2.5 rebounds, covering this prop in just 33.3% of his games so far. But look at this. He's a -154. -154 to go over, meaning people are slapping down their hard-earned dollars on the over 2.5 rebounds out on your favorite sports book. So let's see if we can figure out why the money's coming in so hot on the over for Mike Conley Jr. If we look at his last 5 games here, quick glimpse, 3 against Milwaukee, 3 against Sacramento, and 3 against Miami. Then you got 1 against Atlanta and 1 against Atlanta. So he's gone 3 out of 5, 60% hit rate in his last 5 games. Let's go take a look at Mike Conley Jr. as he takes on the Indiana Pacers tonight in Utah in what is expected to be, according to the 10-point spread, a blowout. Let's go find him here. Over the course of the last 10 games, 1.9 rebounds per game. So he's gone under in terms of average in his last 10 games. 2.2 rebounds per game in his last 5. He's got some games in there where he happens to find a 3rd rebound, though, 3 to be exact, where he's gone over this 2.5 rebound number. I mentioned his odds. They've gotten even better or more juiced up on the over, -160 now. So he's up to a -160 to go over 2.5 boards. Now, if you look at the defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds, we talked about all those. We didn't talk about the point guard defense a whole lot. They rank 8th. do the Indiana Pacers in terms of defending opposing point guards. Probably not so impactful in terms of rebounds, more so impacts his scoring ability. But if we go down and look at his minutes, about 30 minutes per game. Looking at his rebounds, mostly grabbing defensive rebounds, has just one offensive rebound for the entire season. So more often than not, he's going to find his way to a defensive rebound than an offensive rebound. Let's pull up a projection on Conley for you. 3.4 rebounds is his projected number. So maybe people are looking at projection sites like Number Fire, like some of the other ones that exist, and they're seeing that Conley's projected to go over 2.5 boards, and so they're just locking in the over on their favorite sites. But based on the historical data, doesn't look like he's gone over 2.5 rebounds a whole lot. He's been doing it a lot more often, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I love this particular prop in terms of an over. Maybe I just stay away from it. If it looks a little too sketchy, you can always fade it, guys. You can always fade. Oh, we got Webcam HD up in here, spamming like a mofo, huh? Oh, that's nice. Appreciate you leaving that, man. I'm sure everybody in here wants to go check out the porn and stuff that you guys you're promoting in here. So thank you for that, Webcam HD. Oh boy. Anyway, on to the next one. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these assist props for Mike Conley Jr. and company. We've only got a few of them up on the board. We got 5 assist props up on PrizePicks right now. We're not going to let these little spammers ruin the momentum of the stream. But let's go ahead and look at the assist on props.cash. So we'll go to all games here. We'll look at the top trending assists. And we got Donovan Mitchell at 4.5 assists. He's been covering in 70% of the games that he's played at 4.5 assists. We do have him up on PrizePicks at the moment. So we've got 5, 7, 7, 6, and 2. So in 4 straight games, he's been crushing 4.5 assists. So let's take a look at Donovan Spider Mitchell real quick, and we'll dig into the assists for him and see if going over is still the move here for him. Maybe we go under if we think this game blows out. Let's look at the last 10 games. 7 for 10, 70% overall over the course of the season, averaging 5.3 assists per game. A little bit higher in his last 5 games, 5.4 assists. If you look at the money, it's coming in on the over, minus 130 right now as a favorite to go over 4.5 assists. If we scroll down here, we look at the Indiana defense. They're 18th in assists allowed. So not a difficult matchup, but not an easy one for them in terms of assists. More easy than difficult. We'll just say that. They're giving up over 23 assists per game to opposing teams. And they rank 17th in shooting guard defense. We talked about the blowout being a risk factor here with taking overs on any of these props. Same thing applies here to Donovan Mitchell. Overall, though, 33.3 minutes per game in his last 5 games. So let's go get you a projection on Donovan Mitchell here and see if Number Fire's got him going over or going under on this particular prop. They've got him at exactly 4.5, meaning this could break either way. This could end up being a 4 assist game, or it could very well be a 5 or more assist game for Donovan Mitchell. But if you want to break this tie, let's say break the coin flip, you could look at the historical data where he's gone over more often than not on 4.5. So probably the lean would be going toward the over, hoping he gets at least 5 dimes. But I could understand if you wanted to fade this prop altogether. But it's looking pretty good here. 6, 7, 7, and 5 in his last 4 games. So he's been getting it done in terms of the assist category. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next prop. We've got Paul George at 5.5 assists, 60% hit rate. Don't know that I'm supremely interested in that one. He did go over, though, a couple nights ago when we talked about it. And we got Mike Conley Jr. at 5.5 assists at just a 33.3% hit rate. We got Fred VanVleet at 6.5 assists at a 33.3% hit rate. Let's go back to Mike Conley Jr. at 5.5 because his numbers, they don't seem to add up here because he has gone over 5.5 assists in 3 straight games, despite the fact that he had a couple games in there where he had just 2 assists. So this one could be a potential trap. We got to dig into it a little bit deeper. Maybe we could help you avoid this particular trap on Mike Conley Jr. So at 5.5 assists, he's really been picking it up in terms of dropping dimes in the last 3 games. But if you look at the whole picture here, in terms of 9 games, you can see that he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row where he went under 5.5 assists. So maybe a new trend is starting. Maybe those trends of him going under 5.5 assists are of yesteryear, and maybe he's starting a new trend going over 5.5 assists, because he's done so in his last 3 games, dropping 11 on Atlanta, 7 against Miami, and 6 in a rematch against the Atlanta Hawks. 4.9 assists is his average for the season, putting him under 5.5. But if you look at his last 5 games, 5.6 assists per game is the average. Again, mostly being boosted up by this 11 assist game. If you take that one out, the averages drop by a lot because he's got 2 games in there with just 2 dimes. Currently, though, at 5.5 assists, they got him as a minus 120. Minus 120 to go under. So let's go ahead and go down here. Take a look at this Indiana defense. They rank 18th in terms of assists allowed, giving up just over 23 assists per game. And they rank 8th in point guard defense. Conley, again, 30 minutes per game, seeing plenty of floor time. Let's get you a projection on this prop. Number Fire's got him at 5.1 assists. 5.1 assists, guys, puts him slightly, ever so slightly under the 5.5 number, closer to 5 than 6. So they kind of like the lean toward the under on this prop. But it's kind of dangerous, as you can see, because he has been dropping a lot of assists in his last 3 games. So proceed with caution. Proceed with extreme caution. So we talked about some assist props. Let's move it over to the 3-point props, and then we'll get over to the chat, and we'll figure out what's going on with these porn sites. Apparently, they have the best girls in the world, guys. What do you think? I think I got the best girl in the world. Her name's Emily. Shout out to Emily, my wonderful wife. Maybe she's tuning in today. I doubt it, because she doesn't like sports a whole lot. But if she is, well, this one's for you. That's right, guys. You just witnessed me blow a kiss to my wife live on stream. What a sweet guy I am, right? Let's look at these 3-point props and take a look and see what's been slapping, what's not been slapping here. So if we go over to props.cash, we've got Mike Conley Jr. at 2.5 3-point makes. He's up on the PrizePicks board, 66.7% hit rate. We've got OG Anunoby at 2.5 threes, 58% hit rate. Fred VanVleet at 2.5 threes at a 58% hit rate. So these hit rates on these 3-point props today aren't extremely high. I mean, these 3-point guys, they look a little volatile. Maybe we got some good unders on the board. We do. We've got Bojan, however you say his name, Bogdanovic, 2.5 threes, a 0% hit rate. Currently a big minus 194 to go under. So you can see why PrizePicks has rounded this guy down to 2. They've taken off the hook. They've shaved it off. That 0.5 that you get on other sites, sometimes PrizePicks will round a prop up. Sometimes they'll round it down. In this case, they've rounded it down because Bogdanovic has not gone over 2.5 threes at all this season. 0% hit rate. So let's go ahead and talk about this one real quick. This could be a play where you just lock in the under, and worst case scenario, it ends up pushing. Best case scenario, he ends up making 1 or no 3-pointers tonight. So let's look at Bogdanovic real quick. Indiana, Utah is the matchup. We'll click on Bog's name. 3-pointers are already loaded up here on props.cash, and what do you see? You see a ton of red here, and that's because he has not gone over 2.5 3-point makes even once this season. Not a game where he's hit at least 3 at all. So he's at 2 or worse in every game this year. Now, there hasn't been a game where he's made 0 threes, so I wouldn't expect him to not have a single 3. He might have 1. There's been 3 games where he's made 1. But again, no games where he's made 3. So that's why you're seeing the action coming in minus 172, super strong on the under at 2.5. So if you can get him at 2.5 somewhere else, maybe you can't get it on PrizePicks, but if you get it somewhere else at 2.5, you should definitely take the under. And I think even if you play on PrizePicks and this number's sitting at 2, you still got to take the under. And worst case scenario, again, you end up in a push situation. Going down here, looking at the Indiana defense. They rank 24th in 3-point field goal percentage allowed, 12th in the amount of threes per game allowed to opposing teams, and 28th in small forward defense. So based on these numbers, I would expect this to be one of those games where he probably hits 2, because it's kind of a soft matchup from what we're seeing, right? It doesn't look like an overly difficult matchup for Bogdanovic here, so I could definitely see a scenario where he knocks down 2. Now, does he knock down 3? Does he break the curse? I don't know. I mean, we can't predict the future, right? We just got to look at what we have historically here, which shows that he's not good at hitting 3-pointers. So we hope for 2. He's getting about 31.6 minutes per game. If we scroll down here, look at his 3-point attempts, they kind of rest right around 5 to 6 most nights. 5.4 3-pointers attempted in his last 5 games is the average. So let's go ahead and move to the next prop. Unfortunately, one thing Number Fire doesn't have is a projection for 3-point makes. So you're kind of going in blind here with this particular prop. No projections available. Let's see if there's any other guys with a high or low hit rate worth talking about. We obviously don't have any of the Indiana Pacers up on the board. If we get them up on the board, there doesn't look like there's any high hit rate guys for Indiana in terms of 3-point props. Not really seeing anything here that stands out. So let's go ahead and wrap it there in terms of what I do, what I talk about. And let's go to some of your questions in the chat and see what you guys are talking about this morning, because I think we've kind of dug through everything that we have access to on the PrizePicks board. And, enough is enough. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. What are we talking about? Let's scroll back up. Yeah, Tyrone's up at the top talking about great picks yesterday. Draymond fell short by 1 on his rebounds due to an illness, or else he would have hit a 5 out of 5. Now, 5 out of 5 on PrizePicks, in case you're unfamiliar, gets you a 10x payout, 10 times your money. So you put in $10, you leave with $100. That's a $90 profit for you. So let's see what else we got here. Ozzy said his locks from yesterday hit Will Barton and Domantas Sabonis points. Awesome. Good for you. Happy for you there, Mr. Ozzy. You're in here almost every day, so it's good to see you winning. Yesterday, he went all unders on all his plays, said Anthony. The Christian Woods rebounds for Gambit did not hit. Yeah, unfortunately, Christian Woods just did not get it done. It was kind of a revenge game against the Detroit Pistons. I thought, and a lot of people seem to thought that Christian Woods would have gotten it done on the rebounds. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Los Collects says that Van Vliet over on points busted for him. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe we go back to the under on Fred Van Vliet if Pascal Siakam's back in the lineup. We talked about going under on OG Anunoby. Maybe Fred Van Vliet, we go back under on his points again as well. Jared says, luckily I had the flex play, but James Harden's threes cost me $100. Yeah, that was another one where James Harden did everything you could ask for. He was getting points, rebounds, and assists. He just shot 4 threes, and I think he made 1 out of 4. So we didn't get the amount of 3-point volume that we were hoping for from James Harden, unfortunately. Lowe says DeMar DeRozan over on points busted for him. DeRozan's been absolutely hot. I enjoyed getting DeMar DeRozan at 20.5 points. I liked when his line was at 20.5. Now it's usually sitting right around 22.5, 23.5. So it's been a lot harder. A lot slimmer margins here for us in taking the over on DeMar DeRozan. Kevin says Joe Harris over on 3.5 rebounds busted for him. He only ended with 3 boards. Yeah, got to be careful with some of those rebound props, especially when guys aren't really known to be big-time rebounders like a Joe Harris. He's got to get really lucky to hit the over on 3.5 boards, unfortunately. Anthony says today is the bounce back day for him. I think it's a bounce back day for a good amount of us. I think we're looking to definitely bounce back. Remy says he went 2 for 4 yesterday, but money was positive. So he landed in the profits, and that's all you could really ask for is profits. He says he's going to milk the Dinwiddie under on points again in the future. Yeah, Dinwiddie under on points could be a move. Harrison Barnes over 18.5 points. He ended with just 9 points. That was a major letdown. Harrison Barnes has been doing really well at covering 18.5 points. It's tough to see him struggle with just 9 points. Kevin says, bad day. Let's get it back today. That's all we can do is have a short-term memory, try to move on from yesterday's losses, and try to make some profits today. Laker Gang says, Ricky Rubio got trigger happy and barely looked to pass the ball. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I liked Ricky Rubio's fantasy points. I had him going over his fantasy points. I'll have to go back and check. I'm not sure if he actually did or not, but he did have a pretty good game overall. Ricky Rubio stepping into a larger role with Colin Sexton out for Cleveland. Remy says he took Woods and Wendell Carter Jr. under on rebounds. Didn't come close to hitting. Well, I know Woods didn't come close to hitting. I know Wendell Carter Jr. ended up leaving the game early with an eye abrasion, so he definitely went under his rebound prop. Let's see. What else we got? John is back for his second time. Well, welcome, John. Good to see you again. Esper says, oof, took some L's last night. He's a little discouraged, but the head is high. You got to keep your head high. Got to keep that chin up, man. It's a new night, new opportunities here. We're trying to figure out the best ways, the best place to go here on PrizePicks or your favorite prop betting site. Maxey over 29 fantasy points and Barnes over 32 fantasy points. Well, Alexis, we don't typically talk a whole lot about fantasy points, but being that it's a short slate, let's look at those fantasy points props real quick. The first one you mentioned was Maxey at 29 fantasy points. So let's look at Maxey in the last 5 games. Maxey has went over 29 fantasy points in 4 straight games. Even came kind of close against the Chicago Bulls back on November 3rd with 24.2. So a 4 out of 5 hit rate, not bad. I mean, you could do a lot worse, right? 80%. So that's looking pretty good. Let's pull up a projection for fantasy points for Maxey according to NumberFire. They got Maxey going for 26.9. Let's round it up, call it 27. 27 still a bit short versus this 29 number on PrizePicks, indicating that maybe you should be thinking about going under, but it's all really going to depend on if Tobias Harris straps on the sneakers and goes out there tonight or if he doesn't. So you got to watch out for that Tobias Harris news. For right now, Tyrese Maxey will probably be a fade for me until we get more information. Miguel says, let's make some money today. Absolutely. Let's make some money, Miguel. Remy says, dang, they bumped Scotty Barnes rebounds up to 7 boards. Is the gravy train over on Scotty Barnes? Well, not necessarily, because we talked about Pascal Siakam a little bit. He's going to have to, we're going to have to figure out, is he going to play or not? Right now, PrizePicks doesn't have Siakam up for any props, but if Siakam is out, I think we go back to Scotty Barnes, even at 7 rebounds. He's got 9, 12, 9, 7, and 7. So without Siakam in there, I like this over still, even at 7 rebounds. I think it's a good way to go. Let's pull up a projection on Scotty Barnes, though. They've got him projected for 8 rebounds, according to NumberFire. So again, you know, you take the over, maybe worst case, you end up with exactly 7 rebounds, and it's a push. But you don't lose a whole lot of money when these props on PrizePick push. You can still win money. So, yeah, I say lean toward the over, especially if Siakam is out. Says a lot of these teams are on back-to-backs. Yeah, that's worth noting. The rest situation for a lot of these teams. Are they on a back-to-back? Are they playing 2 games in 3 nights? Fatigue can definitely play a factor. We heard about these players complaining that, you know, their bodies haven't had the time in the offseason to recover from a lot of these injuries and a lot of the wear and tear that they put on them each season. So, you know, you run into even more issues when you start talking about back-to-backs and 2 games in 3 nights. Los says he still likes Barnes over 7. I agree with you, Los. I think we should still go to Barnes over 7. Los, you don't like my Eagles hat? Come on, man. It's from 2017 when we were the NFC East champions. Or NFC champions. No, this is the NFC East champions hat. Yeah. Gotta feel bad for the Eagles, though. I'm an Eagles and a Magic fan, so I got it double bad. So have mercy on me. Fred VanVleet over on 3s. Roger wants to talk about that one. Low ball. What does that mean? Low ball. We should be going under or we should be going over. I mean, 2.5, maybe that's a low number. Maybe that's what you mean, that PrizePicks is low ball in Fred VanVleet here. He has gone over in 5 straight games, 3, 3, 5, 3, and 4. So, yeah, I think that this becomes even sweeter again if Siakam's out. You could definitely go back to Fred VanVleet and going over on his 2.5 3-point makes. I like that one. Not a bad way to look there, Roger. Appreciate you dropping that. Esper says, thank you, PrizePicks, for not even attempting me on Eric Bledsoe under on points once again. Yeah, if he was up there at 9.5 points, I would be absolutely tempted to take the under on 9.5 points. Gambit says, refresh. They have Donovan Mitchell now at 25.5. Maybe they've added some other props here, too. Doesn't look like it, but yeah, Donovan Mitchell, 25.5 points. What else do we have here? Yeah, maybe worth a chuck, Gambit. Could be. Batum had 6 threes, and he's going to get looks at them tonight, so he should hit the over on 10.5 points. Yeah, I like going back to Batum at 10.5 points. I think he can absolutely get it done. We talked about it earlier in the stream, but you can see, guys, he's been crushing 10.5 points. I wish it was 9.5 just for our benefit, but I'll take the 10.5 and take my chances on the over on Nick Batum at 10.5 points. Mr. Mittens, what's up? CJ, too legit to quit. Good luck today, my dude. Good luck to you too, Mr. Mittens. Love your cat profile picture. What else we got here? Remy, how about Zubac under 7.5 boards? His minutes are on the decline, plus he has a tough matchup. Let's look at that one, Remy. Ivica Zubac. I'm murdering this guy's name. 7.5 rebounds. He's gone under in 3 out of his last 5 games. So if you're looking to go under, you got a 60% hit rate at going under. Let's get a projection here for Zubac. And I've got him at 8 rebounds today. So this is going to be one of those ones where it could really break either way. And I think his game logs kind of indicate that. When he does go under, he goes barely under. When he does go over, he goes over by a lot. So he's going against a tough Miami team. We saw some other players struggle to rebound against Miami. Guys like Al Horford, who have a very high rebound hit rate overall for the season. So I don't know, maybe Zubac struggles here against Miami. You might have a point there, but the projections, they disagree, right? They disagree. Says, I like the Clippers to cover. The Heat have been dropping duds and probably looking forward to Utah and getting back home. Okay. Roger says, let's go Heat. Roger, Fred VanVleet cooking Philly tonight. Okay. OG under. Yeah, I like OG Anunoby under on his points at 18.5. I think that's definitely a way to look. Last couple games haven't been so friendly to OG Anunoby. This number's probably going to end up at 17.5 before too long. Jacob says, does anyone do underdog fantasy in here? Well, Jacob, a lot of what we talk about on these streams can apply to wherever you play. If you don't play on PrizePicks, maybe you play on underdog, maybe you play on different sports books out there, but player props are typically player props no matter where you play them at. So, hopefully this information helps you no matter where you play. Esper says Reggie Jackson at 3 rebounds, but projected for 4.2. He's at 3 rebounds on PrizePicks. Let's look at the numbers on Reggie Jackson. 3 against OKC, his former team. 5 against Minnesota, 4 against Minnesota. So he's got 3 games in a row where he went for 3 or more boards. But then he's got 2 games in a row where he's gone under 3 rebounds. So this one could be a little bit dicey here. Let's look at Reggie Jackson and that projection for his rebounds. 4.2. Do we trust that against the Miami Heat? I don't know. Seems like a little bit of a too generous of a projection at 4.2 boards. But there you have it. Reggie Jackson. What else do we got here? Josh says, Butler, no rebounds either last night. Okay. Hoodie, you won me some chicken last night. Salute, my guy. Well, salute back to you. I don't know what chicken is, but if it's fried chicken, I love fried chicken. Chicken tenders especially, bro. Hopefully you ate good. Says, shaking my head, ban him. Yeah, I could, but yeah, we'll let it roll, I guess. Those spammers. What else do we got here? Trevor says, just got here. Did you talk about Rudy on rebounds yet? Yeah, we talked a little bit about Rudy's rebounds. He's been hitting it with a pretty good consistency at 13.5, but yeah, this is a potentially tough matchup. So be careful. Also a blowout situation. Utah projected to win by at least 10. That's the spread. So be careful with those rebounds. We need Rudy to get a full run of minutes. Roger says, what is that noise? Yeah, we got some spammers up in the stream today. Lo says, dang, I locked in Mike Conley over on the assists. Well, listen, Mike Conley, again, has gone over on his assists in 3 straight games. I don't think it's dead money whatsoever on the over on Mike Conley's assists. Says, VanVleet and Conley are doing much better with assists. Exactly. Blessings to Emily. Yeah, blessings to Emily, for sure. Anthony says, adding those overs and points with the wife. I get it. Yeah, exactly. Got to get those brownie points with wifey. Said, threes may be the worst way, or maybe the wave tonight. Yeah, it may be the wave. We talked Fred VanVleet threes being an overplay. Bogdanovich under threes being a potential way to go. Hopefully Bog only hits 1. But he has not hit 3 threes at all this season. I think Donovan Mitchell's got a pretty high 3-point cover rate too. Yeah, 5, 5, 4, and 5 in his last 5 games, that's 80% covering 3.5 threes. So you could look at maybe a Donovan Mitchell over 3.5 threes tonight against Indiana. What else do we have here? Lo says, gotta make some of this lost money back for sure. Papa Akrasi. What's up, my man? This is a very great thing you're doing for the community. Well, I'm glad that you enjoy it. Hopefully you've dropped a like on the stream. If not, then you still have an opportunity to do so. Jared, yeah, we talked a little bit about Scotty Barnes and his rebounds. We like Scotty Barnes' rebounds at 7. I still lean toward the over on PrizePicks at 7 rebounds. Listen, it's really going to come down to Pascal Siakam. I know I sound like a broken record, but if Siakam's out, I really like this prop. But if he's in, I just like it. Now, if Siakam's also in, then I like maybe going under on Fred VanVleet's points. Definitely like the under on OG Anunoby points if Pascal Siakam's in. So that's kind of a little recap for you guys just getting in here. Gambit, you don't look at fantasy score? A little bit. Yeah, we do a little bit of fantasy scores for sure. Reggie Jackson under on rebounds. Yeah, we talked about Reggie Jackson's rebounds briefly. He's at 3 right now. Last couple games haven't been so kind to Reggie Jackson. Maybe he ends up in a push situation at 3 boards versus Miami Heat. What else do we have? Zebo says he doubled up yesterday. Nuggets got the big win. Well, congrats on the double up, Zebo. Appreciate that. VanVleet over on 2.5 threes has value. Absolutely. Scotty Barnes over on points. He's taken a lot of shots. Yeah. I like Scotty Barnes over on points, especially if Siakam's out. Again, broken record here, but yo, we got to talk about it. 21, 21, 16, and 21. So he's got 4 games on his last 5 where he has went over 14.5 points. Let's get a projection for you on this prop. We've got Scotty Barnes sitting at 14.8. So closer to 15 than 14. So the over, probably the lean here on Scotty Barnes points. What else we got here? Wendell Carter Jr. left the game early. Yep, he ended up going under. Sure did, Laker gang. Sabonis DD. Double-double? Double-double? Yeah, maybe Sabonis goes for a double-double. Good morning to you, George. He's late, but yesterday's losses suck. Yeah, yesterday's losses absolutely suck. They lowered Mitchell's points to 25.5. So now with Mitchell at 25.5, let's look at it. 31, 36, 37. Over. 21, he falls short, but then a 27 against Atlanta over there. So again, just be careful on taking the overs from the Utah Jazz side on this game, guys, because the blowout, it's a 10-point spread. 10-point spread now. Wow, Dre Day 89 says he had $1,000 on the line, but Harrison Barnes killed him. Unfortunately, yeah, Harrison Barnes had a bad night last night. Yeah, Gambit, and typically these props, at least when they add new props to the board, you'll see it almost dynamically update here through the web browser. But yeah, definitely got to stay on that refresh button because they're always changing props, adding new ones over on PrizePicks. Says, I like Scotty at 8 rebounds. Yeah, Scotty Barnes, well, he's sitting at 7 rebounds, but maybe you're projecting him to go for 8 boards. I think he could get 8. I think he definitely can. Esper says the Jazz Pacers blowout potential scares me. Yeah, 3-game nights. Yeah, got to be careful with that blowout stuff. Jake, second day watching you, man. Love the content. Well, Jake, I'm glad that you're loving the content. Hopefully it's helping you be more profitable. That's the whole goal. Bring people together around sports betting, and put more money in your pocket. That's what I aim to do here. It's pretty simple. I'm not out to do too much here or do anything too crazy. Dustin says, PrizePicks is not available in Pennsylvania. Man, hopefully they get it soon. They're available in a lot of states, a lot more states than your sports books are. So, yeah, maybe PrizePicks will come to PA in the near future. Nicholas Batum over on fantasy points. Let's look at that one, Kevin. As we look to wind down the stream here, taking your last minute submissions. Give you a few more minutes if you have anybody else you want me to look at. But Nick Batum at 24.5 fantasy points has been hitting 34, 32, 26, 35, and 33. So he's not going for just like 25 fantasy points, 26 fantasy points. Most of the time, he's going for 30 or more in his last 5 games. So love this as an opportunity for us to take the over on Nick Batum tonight. Let's pull up a projection on Batum. We know he's got a high hit rate, but Surprisingly, his projection for fantasy points is 23.6. Even if we want to call it 24 fantasy points and round that number up, still falls a little bit short of 24.5. But I got to ride with his hot hand in the last 5 games and probably take the over on Nick Batum's fantasy points. What else do we got here? Maxey fantasy points. Yeah, Cameron, we talked about that one briefly. We got to see what's happening with Tobias Harris and some of these other Philadelphia 76ers before we go locking in the over on Tyrese Maxey. Now, if he happens to be out, Tobias Harris, if he happens to be out, then sure. Let's go ahead and lock the over in on Tyrese Maxey because he's been slamming 27.5 fantasy points. If we look at the last 4, 37, 30, 43, and 49. Dude's been absolutely killing it. So yeah, Tyrese Maxey would be the first guy I would run to if Tobias Harris happens to sit out. A little bit more gun shy on taking the over with Harris in, but I still think Maxey will see a ton of usage and has a great chance to go over. You could also look at Furkan, this Furkan guy right here, Korkmaz, 26.9, 22.5, 31, 27. He's gone over in 4 out of his last 5 games, struggled a little bit against the Milwaukee Bucks, but taking the over at 22 fantasy points, also another good look on Korkmaz. Bogdanovich points. Oh, wait, skipped one. Sorry, George. Pandemic P rebounds over 7.5. Yeah, we talked about some Paul George rebounds at 7.5. He's been covering this number with a pretty high hit rate, 9, 6, 11, 9, and 9. So yeah, you could go over on his rebounds. Let's see what the projections are for George. They got him at 6.8, so let's round it up, call it 7. That puts him slightly below 7.5, so not a home run by any means based on the projections and everything. I always look for historical numbers, projections. I like everything to line up. Then I feel really sure it's about as close as you could come to a lock, right? If the projections line up, if the high hit rates line up, if the matchups line up defensively, like I want all those things to be in a line, and then, I'll feel good about taking the over, the under. Kevin says Bogdanovich points. Yeah, we talked about Bogdanovich being an underplay in terms of his 3-point prop. His points, 20, 23, 16. Then he's got 13 against Orlando and 18 against Atlanta. So, yeah, most of the time, at least in his last 5 games, 80% hit rate or cover rate at 15.5 points. Maybe you go to the over on his points and the under on his 3-point makes. Let's go ahead and pull something up here. 16.1 is his projected point output tonight, according to NumberFire. So that does put him over 15.5 slightly. It's not a huge number. It's not like he's at 17 or 18 projected points, right? But I think we could feel okay about taking the over on his points, maybe going under on his 3-point makes. Appreciate you guys liking today's video if you haven't yet. All those likes, they help me grow. They help carry me along in this YouTube journey that I'm on. So I appreciate it. If you guys are getting any value from this content, you got to smash that like button. You got to make sure you're subscribed and, help support me as a content creator. I'm spending my time, my morning here with you guys. I appreciate the love. Michael Tolliver's glad to be here. I'm glad to have you, Michael. Thank you for joining. If you missed anything we talked about earlier, you can always watch the replay once it goes live, post up on YouTube. Nathan, PG over assist. Yeah, we talked briefly about PG going over 5.5 assists. He's done so in 5 straight games. This is a prop that I think has a pretty good chance of going over here. I don't know if we ever pulled a projection up for Paul George and his assists, but if not, we're going to do it right now, dang it. He's at 4.8 assists. So if we call that 5 assists, it puts him short of the 5.5 number, but it's hard to argue against the output he's had in his last 5 games. He's gone over 5.5 with ease in most of them, going for 7, 8 assists, right? Fantasy points on Miami. Yeah, we talked about some of the fantasy points. Don't know if we talked about any of the Miami Heat guys, but I think we're waiting on some Jimmy Butler news. Jimmy Butler was a game time decision according to what we saw, and he's not up on the board. So if Jimmy Butler's ruled out, you guys need to go ahead and run to whoever you think gets the big bump up. It might be Tyler Herro, and he'd probably be one that I would go to. At 34 fantasy points, he's gone over, let's see, just 1 out of his last 5. But with Butler out of the line, I would expect him to step into a larger role. Maybe you go Bam Adebayo, though, at 41 fantasy points. Let's see, he's gone over in 1, 2, so not a super high hit rate. If Butler's out, Lowry, let's see, at 35 fantasy points has gone over in 1, 2, 3. So he's got the highest hit rate of the 3 Heat guys we've looked at so far. Do I trust Lowry completely? He's been kind of hit or miss in terms of scoring the basketball. We know that. Maybe go Duncan Robinson, 23 fantasy points. Well, he's gone under in 1, 2, 3, 4. Had a big game against the Lakers last night, though. So pay attention to that Jimmy Butler news and be ready to act accordingly. What else do we have here? Take the last couple, guys. We're running out of time here. Asin says, how does Duncan Robinson and Tyler Herro look for tonight on threes or rebounds? Can't lie to you. I don't think we have talked any Miami Heat whatsoever. They're not up on the board yet. I think they're holding out, waiting for the Jimmy Butler news. So you got to wait and see on that stuff. I would wait and see on any Miami props until the Jimmy Butler news breaks. Maxey threes, well, yeah, maybe. He's not up on the PrizePicks board, but Maxey's been absolutely slaying. If you play on PrizePicks, I would take Maxey over fantasy points. I mean, it looks like a great play. Ryan, we talked about OG points being an under. I think that OG will go under 18.5 points with Siakam in. Now, if Siakam's out, I think things open up a little bit for the over for OG Anunoby, but in his last 2 games, he has not covered 18.5 points. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined. 63 viewers. We're closing things up. We're wrapping things up right now. So if you haven't liked yet, now's your time to do so. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate all your support. If you hit the notification bell, turn those notifications on. You'll be alerted when I go live, so you never miss out on these live streams. But typically, it's Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So that's 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. Pacific. So that kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. I appreciate all you guys for joining me. Good luck tonight on your entries. Don't go too crazy. It's just a 3-game slate. That's my advice to you. Bankroll management. Don't be overexposed to any one prop or any one player, meaning don't have 100% of Fred VanVleet over 2.5 threes. In other words, don't have him in every single one of your entries. Diversify your portfolio tonight a little bit and definitely practice that bankroll management. Don't risk more than you want to lose, that you're willing to lose. So that's it. That's my words of advice and my keys to success. Hopefully you have a good night tonight. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.